rights completed. In fact, full settlement of the claims, full self-determination, and full self-government. The American Indians have never, ever had it so good as they had post-Richard Nixon. Now, when we go across that 49th parallel and then some as you move east, the Canadian First Peoples definitely, folks, definitely did not get any of it. Didn't get any of those monumental settlements. No, when you come to Canada, folks, there is no humanity for any of the First Nations in Canada. None whatsoever. We are a 180 degrees different than the United States of America. On the file of the American Indian, who is the same peoples as the Canadian First Nations, they're all one peoples. They're nothing alike. It's 180 degrees opposite. Jade Treaty exists forever and a day in the United States of America for at least the Canadian First Nations to enjoy the ability to freely cross the American border to get away from Canada and enjoy true freedom in the United States of America. No passports required, never have been. All you have to do is have your treaty card or a chief sponsor you through that and give you credence to who you are and that you're of that tribe, those peoples, and you go. There's a blood quantum if you want to push it further. If you believe you deserve the rights under the Jay Treaty, you can do blood quantum and get it done yourself if your percentage is high enough. Now, Canada got rid of all that. Canada utilizes since 1867 the Indian Act, the dehumanizing of all First Peoples of those above the 49th parallel. It is the same sick, twisted system as the Nazis with the Jews, the South African whites against the South African natives, the Japanese against the Chinese. We can go on and on and on. I can literally go through. I've done probably, 40 videos just in residential school genocide where I pick a crazy colonial past from a constitutional monarchy and showcase a First Peoples of another world who went through everything the First Peoples are still going through from Canada. Now, people talking about 51st state, what you have to understand is American Indians have self-determination. They have self-government. They have a settlement of most claims, and they're still working on more each and every day. They have the ability to true federalism. When I say self-government, they actually get the powers of a state. Everything that a state has in the United States of America, including constitutionalism, every first person tribe has 155 constitutions for all American Indians. Guess what? Canadian First Peoples from all spectrums. And folks, don't listen about Métis. We're going to get into that and Métis and their constitution. It is not bound and cemented in any form of any true federalism, meaning there are no powers of a province bestowed upon any Métis. Doesn't matter what the president of the Métis says. No powers of a province in true federalism have been bestowed upon the Métis. Zero in Canada, none whatsoever. So the province of Alberta, zero. If you didn't get that, zero. They're not represented in the Alberta legislature. They don't have any status as MLAs, and they certainly do not hold a cabinet position for the Métis. So, like all other First Peoples in Canada, unlike the entirety of the United States of America, there is no federalism, division of powers of a province for any Canadian First Peoples. Now, why I just went through all these major items, folks, and what Fox is going through, it is not possible to become a 51st state any province in Canada. You can't have those gross human rights violations. You can't go into the U.S. as a state. It's been this way for a long time. I get like a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans that try to go back in time and say, hey, this applies from the 1800s. Oh, this is the way it works. That's not how law works. Law is precedent. That's the law common to all, the law of precedent. A judge makes a decision. That decision on all like cases goes forward forever and a day, unless the Supreme Court finds an error in the justice's judgment and rules another way and creates a new precedent. Until that happens, folks, I'm sorry, but no province or territory in Canada can join the United States of America, regardless of the open invite all those many years ago and what the states have talked about in the 1800s. Because one, USA post-1945 created sovereignty not only with Russia, but not only for themselves, but for the entire world and every state. So you can't have racist, fascist, national socialist countries with provinces designed entirely the same way attaching themselves to the United States. You fail the test. Congress and Senate won't do it. To become a 51st state, you need to have a constitution that matches them in federalism. Now, Canada could do that. Any premier could do that, folks. But, like I just went through the First Nations, you need the First Nations to be the American Indian. What does that mean? It means taking the Crown land and dividing it between, like, let's say Alberta. We take that 60% provincial Crown land, federal Crown land. You won't get Banff, not without the federal government and all of the mountain range. You won't get everything north up past Slave Lake into Greater Slave Lake, all the way through to the territories. You won't get that massive federal Crown land. The federal government won't settle it. Now, the First Peoples don't want to leave Canada and leave their boundaries and break all that apart. Because they have treaties, it's their land, they want a settlement of all of it. Not only just of Alberta, but all across. And if you look at the First Peoples, Treaty 8 goes into northern BC. It goes overlapped into the Northwest Territories. It goes into Saskatchewan. The same with Treaty 7. The same with Treaty 6. You'll find it goes 8, 6, and it'll go 7, and they all overlap. Even 7 overlaps into the United States, but again, while the United States honors the Jay Treaty, Canada does not. These are huge issues, folks. It's not a blanket switch over, crossover. You need to go through constitutionalism. You have to have the 3 S's for the First Peoples. When you get into that, it becomes multi-provincial. That's why we're doing Party of the Canadian Constitutionalists, because all the First Peoples want all of Canada settled. Secondly, we need provincial constitutions, and you need to be a Republican form of government before you can even look at the United States of America. You have to have a constitution. I'm going to say it again, folks. Coming to the United States, any province today, whipping out their Crown-appointed, assigned constitution, the Executive Powers Act or Executive Authority Act, doesn't fly by Congress or Senate or by any constitutional means in the United States. It even violates international binding laws that USA and the other four allies have cemented and bound into place. They won't breach it, and further, they won't breach their own Constitution of the United States. You have to have a constitution that matches the U.S. in design and system, at least very close. If you don't, they won't take you. They definitely won't take a human rights violator with massively unsettled and massive amounts of crown land. I'm going to say it again. Almost nearly the entire United States of America is all private property. All American Indians, all 6.5 million of them, have 133% more of America in private property than all 40 million Canadians and First Peoples. All of them. All of the Arctic, all of the Métis, all of the treaty and unceded Indians. All of them and all Canadians. They have much, much more. You can't go and become a 51st state in that design as a constitutional monarchy with vast stretches of unceded land that the government gets to regulate as a fascist, as the Nazis did and so many others. The South African apartheid government did. Australia, New Zealand, USA won't take you. You can't be designed like that with massive, massive human rights violations and a complete lack of any real civics. Nobody ever talks about Congress or Senate. Nobody ever does. Nobody talks about the reality of the territories that are assigned and the protectorates that are assigned to the United States still today, or the history of all those USA let go. Let go. Philippines was there. Let go. Annexed or as a protectorate, they let it go outside of their immediate boundaries. They let it go. And for people who don't understand international law, USA will never and has never signed the law of the seas. They will not. They're not going to. That law is not internationally binding, and USA will never sign it. They go where they please. They make their own rules of the sea. Those with the ability to enforce the law make the law. That's how it works. It's why Russia's still on the United Nations Security Council. It's why Russia continues to go in full military enactment against Ukraine. They still go. They still have their international stage, and nobody's going to do anything about it. If anyone wants to become a 51st state, regardless of the province, you need to finish the 3 S's. You must see Richard Nixon's work done. Richard Nixon did that entirely for all 50 states of the United States of America. He was the largest mass majority president ever elected. I think there's one more that comes close, but at the whopping percentile, he was mass majority elected. I don't think there's anybody else. There's a few that come close, but I'm pretty sure Richard Nixon holds the largest mass majority elected president, and he finished all the First Nations work and massive civil rights accomplishments beyond anybody else in the history of the United States and probably the world when it comes to the Native American peoples, the what we call the Redskins, so to speak. It's just, I say that because, India has the brown Indian, there's the Aborigines, and that's not even the right name, but it's all What we're talking about is the red-skinned peoples of the North America and all those islands surrounding it all the way down through South America. Those are the original peoples, and Central America and all the islands around. Those are the original people, and these are the people that Canada has violated worse than anybody else. It carried it long, long past all the colonials. USA warred every single colonial vested into their area today as North America and their island protectorates or territories. Complete settlement. That's never happened in Canada, and that has to be done. Before you can look at becoming a 51st state, you need that. And it's very hard when you have federal and provincial crown land. That's why we do Party of the Canadian Constitutionalists. I'm not a subscriber to 51st state. It's the idea that it's an option, a viable option for any province or territory once you've received provincial constitutionalism. You have a tremendous amount of powers bestowed upon you that any premier can enact. And I'm sorry to break everybody's heart, but I know firsthand, Premier Danielle Smith gave me the flying boot. And I have the greatest experts, the greatest. A lot of Alberta Conservatives know it's true. In fact, some Alberta Conservatives, some high-end business people, one on my friends list, and I'm not going to name him because I don't have his permission, pretty wealthy guy, pretty astute businessman. He, if I said the company, everyone would be like, holy smokes. And that is the creator of that massive chain. That was his baby. And he's the one who set me up with Richard Albert. And from there, it just exploded. And I mean, I had others come forward too. I mean, I had, so many from the States, and Richard's one of them, and I'm glad I did it. But we have lots, folks. We have lots and lots all over the world. Some, yes, through Richard and his group, but I would say 2/3 are not with Richard Albert. It's a nice mix, right? I have east of the United States, and then I have overseas in a whole bunch of other groups. And yes, I did participate with Russia. Right now, that's all on hold. But I would never exclude Russia, and I would never promise to do that. But constitutionalism, both federal dismemberment, meaning ripping up the federal constitution and redesigning it, can be done by taking minority prime minister. You take all the crown appointments, you take them all that prime minister has, and those appointments that prime minister has take over all the appointments for the provinces. And they always have, always will. We're a constitutional monarchy. It was the power of Hitler and so many others I could go through. But yes, it's the power that Hitler used as chancellor is what we're going to showcase in the next election. The only one of its kind. And it's the story of every single constitutional monarchy, what's possible. Everybody takes that crown power and it corrupts them, it makes them evil. It really is, folks, a Lord of the Rings situation. It really is the Star Wars truth and story of the dark side, and don't let it get to you. But anyone who gets in with the crown, it takes over. You could call it the Matrix. People think they're living in a democracy, but they really aren't. It's a world of the monarchs and the machinery that they've created for you. We can look at all kinds of analogies, but we're going to give the platform for the people to break all that. We want to settle all the First Peoples, just like America did, and even better. And as you look at the territories, as America got to them, they got more settlement. In fact, Canada would be a huge settlement. I propose 50-50. First Peoples, all First Peoples, and then all Canadians. 1,000 acres for every man, woman, and child of the First Peoples. Real First Peoples, no adoptions. If it got pushed, we would do blood quantum, and before everybody gets upset, First Peoples, it's your country. It was yours. You were grossly wronged. You deserve that back. And if you let people with adoptions and then everybody bringing in people who aren't even first people or completely different races, I'm not even talking just Caucasian. There's all kinds of other cultures and races that weren't even born in Canada. They're not going to get that. Doesn't matter who adopts. I don't think we'd do that. It would be blood, quantum, or absolute status. Show your card. And that's why it's important to look at that. But it's 1,000 acres proposed for every man, woman, child, first person. 35 acres for all men, women, and children, Canadians. A mass amount. Who write a constitution going through every single law federally. And that isn't even as big as what each province has to go through. But it's Canada-wide and it would be big. 6 to 9 months, everybody with the world's greatest legal minds. The biggest constructs are going to be just like the 50 states, the United States. Their constitutions are much larger. Some are much older than the United States itself. But you won't find a constitution smaller than the Constitution of the United States of America. It's very small. Why? Because its powers are very, very limited. Believe it or not, that is federalism. Most of the power resides with the states themselves, and the constitutions show that. They're massive, they're huge, and they grow. They grow and they change. Some are upwards of 700 pages long, folks, and they change year after year, and they add more, and that is a beautiful thing, an evolving constitution. Now, the federal constitution doesn't evolve much, and it takes a lot to amend it. It takes a terrific amount. That can be argued a good thing. Nobody ever talks about how easily the states change theirs. Nobody talks about that. The USA does grow as the 50 states. They don't talk about international law and how the Constitution and the court, the Supreme Court of the United States, protects all of that. They don't tell people or explain people that, but for the greater minds, they see that. Now, Canada, you need constitutionalism, whether it's to transform and settle everybody out and being a strong nation of the day as a republic, or some provinces still not happy, moving on to the United States, or still not happy and want full-on independence. That's all up to the people. But before any of that can be done, we need to settle the claims of the First Peoples. We need to see self-government, self-determination. We need to get constitutionalism and the true federalism promised to us since 1867. It's never happened. That's not the fault of prime ministers, folks. That's the fault of every single premier ever elected since the date you confederated. Every single one has said, no, no, no. All those powers belong to me and my party. This is almost all mine. And I'll make a deal with the federal government so they have all of theirs and all of you have nothing. In fact, some of you don't even have human rights. USA bound all the American Indians, the same First Peoples as all the Canadian First Peoples, and treaty or unceded Indian, off-reserve Indian, Métis, and Inuit. They completed all of that, gave real human rights, real sovereignty, and there is none for any Canadian First Peoples. USA will never take any region or territory of Canada ever, as long as that remains as it is, because it's absolutely unconstitutional and un-American. You can't come in with a monarchical view. You can't come in with zero civics. You can't come in when you don't utilize your division of powers as they do in the States. They don't want you. It's a mess up in their country. Sure, they like to trade and exploit. Who doesn't like to do that? But they will never let any province or territory into USA without constitutionalism firmly in place, meaning every province or territory, at least that province, in all its division of powers. And you have to settle all the claims. Can't have crown land. USA won't swallow that. They don't do that. That's not America. And anybody holding on to these things, or newscasters giving narratives, especially the filthy and the corrupt National Post, as I like to call it, national piece of shit, really, and it's monarchical. And it's forever and a day from the monarchy, and all you have to do is look at Lord Black. That says it all. Disgusting, perverted, and wrong. And they write these propaganda stories. And folks, you have to see past it. What we're doing, Party of the Canadian Constitutionalists, we're doing all of that. And it's up to the people. You're not going to be voting for me or my candidates. Well, you will be, but the vote is actually for you. Because none of us are going to be running office. We're going to carry the budget. We're going to lock out Parliament with our crown positions. We're going to showcase that in a real platform, just as Adolf Hitler did. He did the same thing. He locked out all the politicians. We're going to do it, and we're going to force them out to give you constitutional conventions. If they want to get paid, we're and who controls the consolidated funds? Oh yeah, Prime Minister does. Oh yeah, Prime Minister's got it through the Crown appointment under Governor General. Absolutely federal. Oh yeah, the Governor General appoints all the provinces, and under the Lieutenant Governor there's your other Crown appointment that holds the provincial funds. Oh yeah, nobody gets paid unless the Crown says you get paid. They gotta sign your check. And if they don't sign it, you don't get paid. You want to get paid? You get out there and you get your constitutional convention set up and administered in your home riding federally or your home constituency provincially. That's as easy as it is. All of them. And as long as people play ball, they get paid. They don't play ball, no problem. Good luck. We've locked out the Parliament. We've locked out every legislature, and it won't come back until federal dismemberment and redesign has been passed by you, the people, and absolutely every province and territory has designed a real constitution. Again, I'm going to say it. We're not writing your constitution. No one of the parties writing the constitution. Every first person and every Canadian over the age of 18 is, and you'll all vote. Think of 1,000 referendums in one. A thing done over 6 to 9 months by the world's greatest minds in every first person's native tongue and in every Canadian's native tongue. And if you think I don't know how many there are, I do. It's 215 in Canada. Lots of countries helped me get there. I know how many native tongues there are available. I know how many domestic tongues are available in Canada. 215. And we will deliver it, anyone who wants it, in any language. All the same presentations, all the same work-throughs. We've got the world experts to see that done. That's my video. That's the truth of 51st State. I'm not knocking it. It is a viable option if the people want to go that way. Independence is a viable option for any province or territory if they wanted to go that way. But let's start with constitutionalism. Nobody talks about constitutionalism. If you think other countries in the world, the vast majority of countries in the world, haven't gone through constitutionalism, you'd be wrong. And clearly it's us who's in the massive minority. Yes, UK has an unwritten constitution, which is, to my belief, no constitution at all. If it's unwritten and the goalposts can change, that's a scam, and it's a constitutional monarchy. The king of all scams, to me, is the United Kingdom. At least France went republic. All the rest are republics. And Canada is broken. Canada doesn't work for the people. Canada, in its massive territory with only 40 million people, is grossly abused, grossly mistreated, and used beyond all measure. We have doubled South Africa, meaning we've replaced South Africa post-apartheid 1993. From the most exploited country in the world, South Africa, you now have Canada as its firm replacement. And what do? We all clap and say, oh, it's good that we're all treated the same as apartheid, the First Peoples and the Canadian subjects. I don't think so. I don't think that works for anybody. The only people that works for is foreign powers, foreign businesses, well over 1,500 of them. I know all about them. I'm in with them all this month, looking at it through Climate Action, Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development. Yes, I'm going through it all through the UK this month. It's hard to stomach, to digest, but I go through it. You see the corporations. This is who Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Elizabeth May, Maxime Bernier have all sold their souls to. And every single premier, every single party in the provinces have all sold their souls to it. And if they're not talking provincial constitutionalism and ending the monarchy, the idea of a divine human being over others, the idea of a pyramid scheme of class structure, and a savage people's defined, if they're not talking about ending all that, they're not for you. They're for themselves. They've got a delusion of grandeur. They're sycophants. They're the absolute narcissist. So narcissistic, so sociopathic, they believe they're superior human beings. They call you perverts, you racists, you rotten, you no good. They tell you all the things you have to change about yourself, but it's them who are all those things. They are the ones who keep civics from you. They're the ones who keep constitutionalism from you. They're the ones who say, who cares what the federal constitution says? Never mind Part 5, 1867, and Section 58 provincial constitutions. You don't need any of that. Just let us rule with the crown with an iron fist. No rules of governments, no how to govern, and absolutely no accountability. That's what we are. And we will never change, no matter what any of these corrupt pieces of shit tell you. They can be liberal, they can be conservative, they can be NDP, they can be Green, they can be Bloc, they can be People's Party of Canada, they can be Communists, we can go on and on. All the parties, until they tell you that they are going to give you constitutional conventions for all the people, dismember the crud of the Canadian Constitution, and further design the provinces as promised forever and a day since absolutely day one. They don't give you that. You're not in a good situation. You're not with a real for the people party. They are not conservative. They're not liberal. They're not Labour. They're none of those things. Just like the Allies, including America, the United States of America, when they did their 9-year-long investigation, they found out the Liberals equivalent, the Conservative equivalent, the Labour Party equivalent to NDP were all corrupt. Every single one of them voted by the victorious allies of World War II. Begrudgingly, UK went along. They didn't want to, but they were outmanned, outgunned. They had Russia against them. They had China against them. They had USA and France against them. Pretty lonely place for UK. They had no choice but to let Nelson Mandela go. They had to hold back their veto, plug their nose, and walk forward and let all the South African whites go down the toilet. even though it was their creation, their fault. Canada won. South Africa was like Canada 3. Sick, wrong. All constitutional monarchies are designed to be national, socialist, fascist. And the degrees of how high they get vary, but they're all designed to do that. All of history will show it over and over and over and over again. The worst wars we ever had, worst conflicts we ever had, constitutional monarchies. USA's War of Independence, constitutional monarchy. The Civil War of the U.S. North and South, leftovers of the constitutional monarchy. We can go on and on. France, constitutional monarchy. We can go on and on and on. World War I, constitutional monarchies. World War II, constitutional monarchies. You'll find that the republics came in after. It was all the colonials, the crown constitutional monarchies, fighting for how many people they could slave and steal from, rape, pillage, and plunder all over the world. Those what those wars were for. If you ever doubt it, go look at the settlement of Africa in World War I. That's what all our ancestors fought for. And the poppy, I suggest you go look at what the poppy really means. I think you should go look at China and the UK, poppy in India, under Emperor Edward VII and the Opium Wars, and how much of Africa was transferred from colonial crown Germany to colonial crown France. That was the victorious World War I. That's what all Canadians gave their lives for. Not for freedom, but to take African assets and black people and transfer them to France as they were owned and hostilely engaged with Germany. They got to be transferred to the crown of France, property of France. Think about that. That's what they all gave their lives for. Can't make it up. Anyone can look it up. It's huge. And I am liking AI coming forward. AI, the more inputs you put into AI, they start to paint pictures of what our world really is and who our politicians and these great figures people think are. AI says, that's a POS. I will give you an artistic rendition of who that person is in reality. It's funny AI does that. And it's funny all the same people are going, no more AI, don't develop AI anymore. Why? Because if we input you, what's AI gonna say? Who does AI really not like when all truth and inputs are available? And everything it knows and it can read instantaneously. You start to find out who's evil in a big, big hurry. That's my video, folks. Share, get it out there. I know everybody involved in the story with the 51st state. I got that first thing this morning, and now it's it's a good talk. It's a good talk, and I like to give this talk because I've given it many times before, and people say, why didn't you get involved with the 51st state? Because it's one option. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's a viable option. But is it the starting point? No. Anyone telling you it's the starting point is trying to throw you off. They're trying to get you to fail, and then, guess you'll have to stay as a constitutional monarchy, because they know USA will say no, but they don't tell you why they have to say no. We follow the law. It's always the legal path. They gave the legal path to a province's independence, and today, and going forward all the way to 2025, we give you the legal path to fixing Canada. Fixing it. From there, with that power and that truth and that platform, if people fix Canada and they're still not happy, they will have the option of 51st state, independence, and so much more. Thanks. That's my video. Share. Get it out there. It's not going to be about me. It's not going to be about all my candidates. It's going to be about you, the people, all First Peoples and all Canadians. Thank you. Bye now.